Hey everybody, this is Pablo and Gabby with The Really Good Life. We're about to get started on a just raw conversation, I think, for a while. Some of you know our story, some of you don't. I know that I was having breakfast with a friend this week, and they were like, you should record or you should film when you guys just began, your entrepreneurship journey. It's a mix of a lot of things, it's a mix of marriage, kids. And so it's an interesting story. And it's really like we want to bring hope to whoever is just starting their journey, or if you already started and you're just like, it's not going well for me and I'm about to quit. So
No,
we
yes. Don't do it. There's hope.
so we kind of wanted to, have that type of conversation in front of the cameras and, just like I said, just something very raw, very, we decided to name the podcast A Really Good Life.
Yeah, and I'll add some stuff there because we've gone through a whole journey ourselves, and I think there's a lot that we have learned in our journey, and I think there's a lot that you might, as you're watching and as you're listening, I think you might identify with a lot of the stuff. Right now, we have four beautiful children that we're raising with godly principles. In addition to that, we run a few businesses that are pretty successul. We've been in business for like 10 years. On one of the businesses, serves over 2,500 clients, and has provided a really good living for us. But then, which we learned a lot there. But in addition to that, we also are very involved in our church community.
Yeah.
And, we're constantly helping out there. And as I've said before, we wake up with such a gratefulness and positive outlook on life, that we believe we're living a really good life.
Yeah.
We say to ourselves, how can we have so much peace, so much love? How can we? And we're not faking it. I mean, I know there's cameras here, and I know we're recording this, but I say this even without any cameras here.
Yeah.
That's
I think, our friends and our family who are close to us, they know that this is us, like we are not trying to put up any like Instagrammable moments for you guys. Like, this is who we are. Like, this is how we do speak. This is how we are on or off camera. I mean, if you know me, I don't like being on camera either way. You will hardly see any selfies of me. Like, and I even told them the other day, I have no good photos of me because I avoid the camera. I just don't like the camera. So even this is it's out of my comfort zone. But I know that God has called both of us to give and to pour into other people that are also wanting help and who want to, they ask questions all the time. I get people asking questions like, how did you guys do it? Like, how are you guys doing it? And it's our joy to be able to share, what God has done in our lives. And this is not us taking the credit. We never do. I always tell God, like, God, you chose the most insignificant person, because I tell Paul,
You're pretty special though, baby.
thank you.
Well,
But what I'm trying to say,
I get your heart.
No. But what I'm trying to say, listen, is like, I didn't go to school for any of it. Like, we didn't go to business school. We didn't go to counseling school. We didn't do any school. So like, I can't credit, to any accomplishments, quote unquote, that I, anything like that. So I always say, God, is because of your mercy, your love, that you place the right people in my life at the right time. And, and because of his love,
revelation of his word. There's this Bible verse that says, it's found in Psalms. It says, not to us, Lord, not to us, but to your name be the glory because of your love and your faithfulness. And we really we give that the credit to all the peace that we have, to all the joy that we have,
Yes.
We do have a bunch of arguments and we do have
We fight.
disagreements. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. But I'm talking
I'll
about
have some of those
overall.
on camera.
I'll t- yeah. I told you I'm going to release that episode. We came in here to try to do
Oh,
something like this
Lord.
like a few months ago and we just filmed
Yeah.
the fight.
And we
But
could even talk about
yeah,
why we fought.
yeah, we'll probably release that. Anyways, let's get to the point. So,
So,
how we first
our
started.
journey.
Yeah, our
How did
journey.
we begin?
Yeah.
Was our life
Always perfect?
always a really good life?
No way. It was a really bad life. I think no, for real. Like
Yeah, I know.
the way that we grew up, like our childhood, was there was a lot of adversity. Like I know for me, and you know this because obviously we've talked. My childhood, the way that I was brought up, and I say this as the most in the most honoring way that I can because I think you know we have to have grace for the previous generations. And this isn't to knock anybody down or to
Yeah, or
say like
shame
or
anybody.
shame anybody or to be like, oh look how much better now we're doing things. Because that's one thing also that I know that the Lord has been speaking to me about to have to speak in a forgiving manner,
Yeah.
to speak as someone who has forgiven.
Right.
And so I guess that is one of the best ways to recap or to say in a succinct way what my childhood was like. My childhood for me required a lot of forgiveness, required for me to learn how to forgive.
Yeah.
And I think that's fundamental because I think if I wouldn't have had that,
Yes.
because look, I'm still having that.
Yeah.
If I'm honest,
Yeah.
there are still a lot of things that rise up
Yeah.
that happen that I still need to forgive
Yeah.
my parents about.
Yeah.
You see? So
I
again,
think that was something last night. We had a conversation before going to sleep. And that was something that came up, something that we wanted for a very long time and we haven't been able to have even now, but because of a lack of parenting, and it's when you have those moments of like all these emotions come with it, all these emotions come like you get angry, you get upset, you get like, but why? Like you ask yourself like why and then that's where Holy Spirit reminds us, like, you have to forgive. You got to forgive your parent or that person that was authority in that moment or whoever, like you have to forgive them and literally move forward. Because if you dwell on that, it's just going to drag you.
and it's going to turn into bitterness.
Yeah.
And then that bitterness just clouds your judgment, clouds your thoughts, it clouds your heart. You're not able to love fully, right? You're not able to open up your heart because you're so guarded. There's so many walls.
Yeah.
And a lot of these things happen, are formed, a lot of these defense mechanisms, a lot of these just survival strategies or
Orphan
methods.
spirit.
Yeah, like all of these things happen because in our childhood, it was really rough. It was full of adversity. And so in order for us to even start talking about us,
Yeah.
that's why I'm sharing.
Yeah. No, that's a huge reason
Yeah.
why we were able to start
Yeah,
on a path to a really good life.
exactly. So
Yeah.
because we early on, we recognized the fact that there were a lot of distorted views. There were a lot of wrong ways of thinking. There were a lot of deviations from the truth,
Yeah.
from what a healthy life is supposed to look like. And so we understood that. I mean,
Yeah.
we still didn't see like, okay, well, and this is the really good life, and this is how
No.
healthy looks
No,
like.
no,
But
we
at
didn't.
least we knew that what we had learned, a lot of it was unhealthy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was because I think another thing is because of the people that were in our lives that God placed, like our pastors, our leaders at our church, teachers at our church that took the time to sit with us, and I remember when, we first got engaged, it was like, okay, you guys want to get married? Cool. All right, let's talk, and it was a lot of conversations with our pastors and, she's a mama bear and, she had like literally in her heart adopted you and your brothers.
Big time.
And so she saw me like, okay, you're gonna marry my son. So we gotta have conversations, and we did. We had tough conversations, like real tough conversations. And I think another key for us to begin on the path of a really good life was that it was having tough conversations, having uncomfortable conversations, having conversations where you're going to allow and give permission to people that are much ahead of you, that are, who are wiser, have a really good life already, to be able to speak into you and be like, that's unhealthy.
Yeah,
And
100%.
I remember the first time where, our pastor's wife, she was like, hey, like all the things you have seen in your life, like the examples of marriage have all been unhealthy. And I remember I was like, it was the first time I had ever heard that. Even though I knew that, but like out loud, it was like yeah, like I had to realize that in that moment, like she's right. Like I don't know what a good, healthy marriage is, and I began to actually, she began to expose even mindsets in my life that were wrong, and one of them was if Pablo would hurt me, I was going to leave him. Like I had made up my mind, that was my mindset. Like if he ever puts me through the hell that my dad, put my mom through, I'm leaving. Like I am not like my mom, like that she suffered and like I was like, that is not who I am.
I'm not going to put up with that.
No. So, I mean, I even told your mom that. Your mom did not like that.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I'll divorce him. In my mind, I even said it out loud. So that was wrong, and the Holy Spirit used her, our pastor's wife, to expose that. And I had never told anybody that that's exactly what I was feeling and, wanted. And I remember.
And imagine coming into a relationship, a marriage.
Yeah.
With that right at the back of your mind, even though you don't vocalize it, but it's in the back but in the front of your mind all at the same time, because at any point of adversity, and we know this because we've been married for 12 years, but when you get married, you don't understand the type of adversity that's about to come. I mean, the amount of times that you're going to have disagreements because you're so used to living your own life. Like I'm used to living my own life. There's a bunch of fears. There's a bunch of unhealed areas in our hearts. So naturally, we were like about to face a bunch of adversity. So imagine if that at the back of your mind, you're like, at the first sign of adversity, I'm going to let go. Dude, you're not going to get too far.
Yeah. And so like not exactly understanding what was happening, but I was taking a victim mentality already, right? Like if he hurts me, I'm the victim, so I have to get out. So in that sense, like you're saying, yeah, any adversity, any suffering, it would have just made me quit. And my personality that I used to, before the Lord forming me and healing me,
character development.
Yeah, I was very like, this is what I'm going to do and this is what I'm going to do, and no one's going to take me out of that, so I know that would have been me. So
but it was a way
of defense,
of a defense mechanism,
right,
in order for you to survive.
Exactly.
Survival
because
tactic.
that's how it was with my dad. That's how it was with a lot of people. Like I wasn't someone that had a lot of friends because of the same thing, because I was very like, well, I'm not going to let people in, so what, so they can just hurt me. So I was very selective, right? Now it's like I give without expecting. And if people hurt me or betray me, which it's happened, right? And we'll talk about that later in some episodes, like
you forgive.
And
you forgive quick.
Yeah, and you move forward and you don't have
Yeah.
it against them. But before that wasn't it.
It's true.
So all of that in our first 2 years of marriage, like had to happen,
Yeah.
and God allowed, again, in his mercy, he's so good. He allowed a lot of that pruning and a lot of that purification and stuff. So because like he knew that in our second year of marriage, that was the
we were about to
hardest.
face our biggest form of adversity. But hang on, you're skipping a few of the details that I'll just say really briefly. So Gabby and I met at church when we were younger. We knew of each other because we've been going to the same church all of our life. So like when I say all of our life, I
Like
mean
my mom was pregnant of me. Well, my mom, I wasn't even born. My mom started going to church
exactly.
with
So
my brothers when they were like 3 and 4.
yeah. So we've been going to the same church all of our
Yeah.
life. And then when I turned like 12, I I saw, I don't know what happened. Like
I don't know what
we
happened
knew of
either.
each other. Remember?
It
So
was the play.
yeah, well, there was a
It was a
play.
skit,
There was a skit at church,
Easter.
and then we both like acted in that
Yeah,
skit.
and I didn't. To me, Pablo was my little. Like I saw him like a little. I thought you were younger than me.
Yeah, it's because the thing is that my parents made me like my biological parents, they made me like memorize the Bible, and I would go up to the front. Remember, I would go up to the front and like with a big old mic, and then I would
So
recite
little
Bible verses, but I would memorize like entire chapters.
chapters.
So I
So
would,
everybody was like,
yeah, I would
"Oh,
take up like 20% of the service, like just saying my Bible verses. So then everybody knew me as like, this little kid. Yeah, they would call me Pablito.
yeah,
So everybody knew me as that.
yeah."
So here I am, 12 years old, and
And
like,
I thought he was like
yeah,
10.
Pablito,
Yeah,
so
and I was 11 or 12. No, no,
yeah,
no. I was 12. You were 13.
yeah,
And then yeah,
okay,
that's what it was.
okay, all right, all right,
And then we started to like talk
yeah.
finally
So
until
then
we were that age.
we would write each other letters, and
Every weekend.
every weekend, because we didn't live close to each other. I lived
We
out
lived like
like
almost an
45 minutes
hour.
away, an hour away, and we would only see each other on weekends. And this was back, guys. This was back then when you didn't have these type of phones. Like all you could do is text.
Or
But even
or
then,
social media.
texts were not unlimited at the time.
I didn't have a phone.
You
I
had that
had
little
a
purple phone.
I had a phone until I was 17.
Oh, my bad. Oh, that's true. That's true. We didn't have phones. Oh my goodness.
I
How did we
didn't
do
have
it?
a phone. We
Well,
just wrote letters.
we wrote, that's how we communicated.
Yeah.
So we just wrote letters to each other every
Yeah.
weekend. And
Yeah.
every weekend I would sneak it into your purse because, you're not
You're
allowed to
not
be dating
allowed
when
to
you're
be,
that,
like,
that,
liking somebody
at that
else.
age. Yeah. Because anyways,
Which
it's pretty smart. Yeah. So we would write letters to each other and this is how we would communicate.
yeah, that's
So we just fell,
years.
but we fell massively in love for each other.
Massively.
Like I'm talking about massively. Like you set the bar like up here, and I did the same with you because anybody else that would
Yeah, that
even
try
try to talk to you or try to
I'd
talk
be
to
like,
me,
"Dude."
it'd be like, this is real, this is not.
Yeah, and then like if it would say even like a name or something like, "Oh, you're pretty," I'd be like, "No, you're lying."
Yeah.
Like the only one
Yeah.
that can call me that is Pablo.
Yeah. Send me letters for 2 years, then we'll talk. Yeah. I put in the work, man. Hey, but you're worth it. So anyways, so we did that. All right.
Took a little break.
Yeah, we won't get into that. But here we are at 17. No, here we are at, how old were we when we got engaged?
I was 20.
Really?
I had no, yeah, no. I was a day. It was a day before my 21st birthday.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay,
So I
so
was 21.
21, 22, we got married at 23, 24. Okay, but don't forget who we are at this point. At this point, we are two broken
Very broken.
young people, okay, two very broken
Very
people
broken.
that come from very broken families
Yeah.
that like generationally, like I didn't even get into that. Like generationally, like that it wasn't just my parents, like,
Yeah.
marriage that was broken. It was my grandparents, my great grandparents, my great great grandparents. So you see, it's a line of
So much.
of a lot of failed relationships.
Yeah.
And so I don't have the skill set that I have learned other than what my pastors have taught me. And at that time, you're young, so you like don't really care so
No,
much.
you don't.
Okay, so now here we are, 23, 24. Okay, we're married, and then we start living this, amazing life because it's our first year of marriage. This is so new.
Bliss.
Everything's it's all bliss. And then here comes the first set of adversity. Okay, I lost my job.
Yeah.
And the week before, I had told her, "Hey, I think you should quit because
2 weeks before.
2 weeks before, I think you should
So
quit
I
your
could
job
finish school.
so you could finish school, and then I can pay the bills because my job pays
pays
pretty
pretty
well.
well, yeah.
Okay, but then I got fired.
Yeah. 2 weeks after.
2 weeks after, I get fired. That creates a lot of turmoil.
Yeah.
Because now it's like it was kind of smooth sailing because the money was coming in,
Yeah.
and I could care less. What you say, but when you don't have money and you're struggling in that sense, like, dude,
Yeah.
life's not that good.
No.
Yeah, like life's pretty tough.
Well,
you know?
yeah.
And
Like,
so,
I mean, to pay a rent, like your rent,
yeah.
to eat, like you need money.
Well, check this out, guys. And I'll say this. It got so bad at that time.
Say that.
It got so bad that my wife was asking me to buy. Sounds so dumb, but this is just
You
where we
make me
were.
sound so like
No, I don't,
I
baby.
only wanted a specific type
No, no,
of
no.
water.
Gabby wanted gallons of water because
Well,
this
because
was
I was pregnant.
we didn't have sparklets at the time. We didn't have
Well, I
sparklets.
couldn't afford
We couldn't
that.
afford sparklets.
No, but the reason why it was because I was pregnant and I couldn't drink
Yes.
like just I
Yeah.
forgot what it's called. Tap
Anyways,
water,
the
whatever.
point is that I couldn't afford water for my own wife
Yeah.
and for the child that was in her belly
Mm-hmm.
because she got. Oh, we skipped that part. She got pregnant.
Yeah.
I mean, you're out of a job. There's not much to do at home. We're having a lot of sex, okay? So I'll tell you that much. We were newlyweds, it was from in that standpoint, it was
but
amazing.
our plans that we had did not, none of them were going what we thought. Like I was supposed to finish school. I had only like a year and a half left if I went full time.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I can do this. Like, no babies. We'll just wait. We're still young. Like, we'll wait those, 2 years so I can finish. And then that didn't happen because he got fired. And then we started like, you kept applying. And then I wanted to go back to my job. But because I didn't have a degree, they were like, sure, you can come back, but you'll come back for like pennies. And I had lost my position that I had, everything that I had worked for. And I was like, I don't think that's worth it, So we still had said, because we were confident that you were going to find a job right away.
Yeah.
So you had said, you know what, still go to school. And I remember I did still take a class or two.
Yeah.
While you were trying to look for a job because we were still in unemployment. Or you were.
Yeah.
And then, how long? Like 7 months passed by and you couldn't get a job, or 8 months?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Things financially for us had gotten like really, really difficult.
Really bad.
Yeah, like really bad.
Like to the point, guys, where my mom called and she was like, Gabby, like, you guys need to let us come in and like
Live with
help
you guys.
because they were living on their own. And, they wanted to come in and help us pay the rent. At that time, we also had your brother living with us. And we couldn't afford taking care of him either because he was a minor.
Yeah.
And we're like, dude, like, we can't do this, you know?
So again, we're 24, we're 25, and all of this adversity in our way.
Bills were piling up.
This was the only time in
It was tough.
our marriage that we said the D word.
Well, because you fast
D word
forward
divorce.
it. But
D
you
word
fast
divorce.
forward.
Okay.
Because at the time, I think it was like at the 9th month or 10th month, I think, of trying to find a job, you started to do parties so for those who do not know, the background story is that Pablo in high school got really good at video.
It was a passion of mine.
Yeah, like he was.
Yeah, like I would ditch all of my classes to go create videos.
He barely graduated high school.
Anyway,
Because of that.
I'm telling you guys, not to us, Lord, not to us, but to your name be the glory.
Because
Because everything, exactly. I mean, think about that, baby. Like, look at all these like things that it's amazing. It's all God, guys. I'm telling you, it's all God.
It's like
It's all God.
credit to anything.
No,
or anybody.
to where we're at, to where we're going. I'm telling you, like the really good life is if it's accessible to me.
If we can do this,
No,
you
seriously.
can do this.
Yeah, seriously, guys. So anyway, so now we're at this place where I get this idea, and then to start a business where we produce content, where we take photos and videos. Back then, those photos and videos, and now it's content. So
Back then you could only do video. You had to learn how to do photos.
I didn't know how to do photos, but because I've always been a good salesman, that for sure. So I convinced someone to let me take photos of their property, and I was about to show up to that project with just my phone, and then this big old camera to do the video. Remember, the cheesiest video ever. But anyways, and at that time, I had a decision to make. I was like, either we pay our rent this month, or I buy a lens I buy a lens that will,
$800.
yeah, yeah. I buy a lens that will that I could use to start, the
The
business. So
business.
yeah, so I, yeah, let's just say we were
So
currently
he
on a rent.
went,
Yeah,
we
so
were really late.
not to us, Lord.
Couple months. Couple
I'm
months
so
late.
embarrassed to even say this, man.
It's
But
good
anyways,
though.
whatever. We're being
We
raw.
said we were gonna be raw.
Yeah, yeah. So I do that. Now, if anybody has started a business or has tried to start a business with our background, with knowing what we knew, dude, it's tough.
It is
It's very
very
difficult.
tough.
Your first business, you don't know anything. Like,
Well, I don't even, I mean, I didn't even call it a business, love. I just called it like I
yeah.
thought it was a side hustle.
Well, it
For
started as
me,
a side.
well, okay,
Yeah.
well, I guess I'll say my story, the
Yeah.
side of my story. So when
Okay.
Pablo started this, I wasn't on board. I wasn't on board because as a woman, you want security, you want safety,
Mm-hmm.
you want to feel like there's going to be a steady income coming every single month.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pregnant, I got pregnant in May and he had gotten fired the year before in October. So I was kind of like, okay, well, I'm having a baby. Like, you should get a job that should like bring steady
Oh,
income
man.
and then also have benefits, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
So
That was a big one.
in me, there was so much fear. There was so much anxiety and fear of like, this is not good. Like
Yeah.
this is not gonna be
Yeah.
good,
It's not gonna pan out.
It's not gonna pan out. And I
Yeah.
think that for a woman, like one, I'm very conservative. I'm not a risk taker, and then the other aspect was like, bro, like we had said that you were gonna like be a pastor or something.
Oh, yeah. That was my thing.
Like
Yeah.
a minister or
Yeah.
something. And maybe not a pastor, but like a minister or
Well,
something.
okay. So,
That was full time.
yeah, that's true. Because remember, like we grew up in church, and so to me, what was was always at the forefront of me was like, and okay, because maybe you're watching and maybe you won't understand. Like if you didn't grow up in church, maybe you don't
culture.
church. You don't understand like church culture. Because again, when we say we've been going to church all of our life, this is what we've been going to the same church all of our life.
And that's all we knew.
And that's all we knew. So if you don't understand that, you might not understand this. But if you did grow up in church culture, you totally understand that like the top level of success is you holding a microphone and preaching at your church or becoming a pastor or doing that. That is
For sure you're going to heaven.
that's for sure. Yeah. This girl. Yeah. That's like, yeah, exactly. And so when you think I want to start a business, in some way, it's like that's the entire opposite of
Yeah.
what like of what of what I
And
thought
so then
success
the
was.
business is treated as just a side hustle. It's
Yeah.
not something, that's why a lot of businesses that you don't take seriously, they just fulfill your, what is it called?
Your temporary needs.
Yeah, your temporary
Yeah.
needs. So you don't see it as
But you don't have vision to
you don't wanna
expand,
grow
multiply.
it. No,
You don't.
nothing.
Yeah, it's just like how to
it's
pay the bills
just-
real quick, and then
exactly.
that's
And
it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because then later on you're gonna have to leave it because you're gonna become pastor.
Or it's just like again, it's very like lack mindset.
Yeah.
You don't have vision
You
for your
don't.
business.
So
because to you
You
it's
don't
like
do anything right either.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you don't save. You don't do anything.
Yeah.
With it. You're
steward
just
your
like,
finances well because
No, because you don't even see yourself as a business owner.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I remember, I was someone that would oppose you
Yeah.
a lot. In the beginning, I didn't understand that this was something that God was giving us. I didn't even think like that. I just thought like this is silly. Like you're turning a passion of yours into just a side hustle. And I remember even like that word God took away from us, the hustle. Remember, like there was a phase. But it was like, no, this is just a side hustle thing that like Pablo's just doing this until he finds a real job. And I remember I would oppose you a lot.
Yeah.
And I remember that's where a lot of the frustration grew in you and it grew in me because I didn't know what we were getting ourselves into.
Yeah.
I thought that I was going to be like 50 years old and then start a business because I was going to have huge, like humongous, like piles and piles of money,
Yeah.
that
Wow.
I was, going to save up with the
Yeah.
career that I was
Yeah.
studying to do.
Yeah.
And we were thinking about you were going to be a manager, at the
Yeah.
bank.
Yeah.
That's kind of where you were heading.
Yeah.
Um, and then we thought like that's going to be really good money.
Yeah.
So I thought like, yeah, just work really hard like that and then
Yeah.
save and then maybe we'll put a business,
Yeah. Yeah.
So all of this just came like
So we
so
were,
fast
yeah. So okay. So here we
and
are.
not the right way.
Exactly. So here we are, just starting a business, and on top of that, Judah was
I
born.
got burnt. Yeah, I got
No, no, no. Judah was
Yeah.
Judah.
Oh,
Judah
you're
was
right.
born.
Judah was already born
So Judah was born,
because you started.
our first son,
Yeah.
and our first business, all at the same
Together.
time.
Yeah. Because you started HSH
Yeah.
2013 and then Judah was born early February 2014.
Yeah.
So it was back to back.
Yeah, so it's like
we
right
had
there.
twins.
Yeah, it's like, exactly. It's like
Yeah.
we had twins. And so here we are in our hearts. Gabby was like, man, this is the dumbest thing this guy's doing because he's like wasting his time. He should be focusing on like other stuff that's more consistent with more consistent income. And he should be doing all of that and, taking care of his family, which in a way she was probably right, you know, in retrospect, everything makes sense, and you can always look back and say, okay, I could have done this
Perfect.
different. I could have done this perfect, but it's a journey, right? And so here we are, and in this much stress, and I will say this story, okay? And I know this doesn't make me look good, but I want to share this story because, listen, it got this bad, okay? Listen, it got this bad. One day, I had just had enough. It was just because, again, the baby was so small, and there were a lot of things that I was very selfish in.
And not only that, but I think give yourself some grace. I think also you were going through so many like unknowns that you were breaking your head on how to do things.
Yeah.
And how to like
Yeah.
do business.
Yeah.
You didn't know how to do business. You didn't know how to talk to people. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember you would come home and you were so like bummed out because you went door knocking and like someone was making fun of your business cards.
Oh, it was
like
really bad.
yeah, like
Yeah, it was
things
really
like
bad. It
that.
was
Like
humiliating.
you didn't know a lot of what you know now.
For sure.
Nothing. And
Yeah.
you were also working till 4 a.m.
Yeah.
I
I was doing everything in
3
the
a.m.,
business. Yeah,
5
everything.
a.m.
Yeah.
While Judah was awake or I had to go give him his feeding, you were still up.
So let's just pause for 1 second here, because if you're watching and you're starting your business or you see your husband starting a business, I would say be a little patient with him,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of things that he's learning. Check this out. I would encourage you or him or whatever to seek out a mentor.
Yeah.
If I could go back to this time, I would see someone that's already doing
Yeah.
what I would like to be doing.
Yeah.
And I would just reach out to him and be like, hey, man, like, I'm desperate. Like, I need your help.
Yeah.
Like, I'm about to lose my marriage, because I was about to lose my
Yeah,
marriage.
that was a scary season.
Yeah. So be patient with him and have him seek mentorship.
Yeah.
Just reach out. Like, even, just have him reach out. Have him watch this episode. Have him watch, yeah. So anyway, so here we are.
Say the story.
Yes. And the story was that I had just had enough. Like, I was just very, very stressed. Guys, I was under so much stress, and we had just gotten into an argument, and your mom was living with us. And so this thing blew up into this bigger thing that it didn't need to, but it did. And guys, I ran out of my house
It sounds so bad.
in my boxers
Yeah, you did.
like a madman
This is at nighttime.
at nighttime. So at least there weren't as many people outside. Actually, there was no one
That's
outside.
definitely outside.
But and we lived in
In
like
like-
in like a townhome place area.
Like
So
a
I mean,
condo area.
yeah. So it was a populated area, but I ran out in my underwear just ran, guys. Like I just ran and I was crying and weeping so mad. Like, why does life have to be so difficult? Why does everything have to be so tough? Like, why this, why that? Like, I was just so angry and so
Yeah.
frustrated because I couldn't take care of you.
Yeah.
I couldn't take care of my son.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing with the business.
And the bills are
The
piling
bills
up.
were piling up.
Yeah.
Everything was just so bad. I ran out and I was just crying and weeping. And like I ran and there was like this playground. It was nighttime, so there were no kids. So like,
Oh my
like, yeah. So
God. This
I
is
guess
so
we lived
bad.
next to a playground. So like I ran and then I just went into this playground and I remember crying and crying and crying, just so upset and so angry.
Yeah.
And
God
now,
showed up.
yeah, in retrospect, guys, when I look back, it was a little boy
Yeah.
unprepared for the responsibilities that he was facing and just totally at his end.
Yeah.
At his what's the saying? At his wit's end.
Yeah.
Totally at his wit's end. I didn't know what I was doing. So I was just crying, crying there. And then my brother showed up, he was like, consoling me, telling me like, bro, you know, it's everything's gonna be all right, but just being in this place sucked. Like
Mhm.
being in this place was there it was again, I just described it. It was humiliating. It was difficult,
Yes.
and so
Difficult.
in that place, so when Gabby says that was the scariest place, like this was really the place where if something didn't change, I was gonna lose my marriage.
Yeah. And it's so awesome when um there's moments where you're like, God, where were you? And God was so present. He was so present. I remember, I don't know if it was the following day or that same week. I don't remember, but I had a C-section. So I wasn't feeling like myself. That was a whole different journey for me.
Yeah. That's a
Um,
podcast we could do.
yeah. And I remember just being so also very confused, very lost, very like, what's going to happen with our marriage? Like, is this it? Like, did we only last for 2 years? I remember it was just like,
Hmm.
going off. And you might be like, why? Well, like, you have to understand if your husband, all they're thinking about is the business or all they're trying to fix in that moment is the business, like, they're gonna neglect you, they're so I felt very neglected.
Hmm.
He didn't really help a lot with like the
Yeah.
baby, things like that,
Yeah.
because again, he had his own baby and he was feeding it at 4 3 a.m. And I
Yeah.
was feeding my baby at 4 3 a.m.
Yeah.
So I felt alone. I felt, and I'm sure he was feeling the same way. He felt alone. He felt misunderstood
Mhm.
by me, and I was opposing him and all these things. So we were not a team at all. We were like defending what was ours at
That's
that
true. That's true.
that moment.
Yeah.
And I remember just feeling so like literally feeling like I'm losing my marriage. And it's crazy because our pastor's wife, who the Lord uses in such a mighty way, um, she calls me and she's like, I was praying and I felt a burden for you both. And I feel like you guys are having problems.
Hmm.
And then I was like in shock. I was like, how does this woman know? So she's like, I'm gonna be right there.
Hmm.
So she shows up like, I don't know, maybe like within 30 minutes, I think, of us hanging up. I think Pastor drove her and waited in the car. And she came and our house was a mess. It was horrible. And she just came up right to upstairs because I couldn't go down because I had just a C-section, so they couldn't be going back and forth.
Hmm.
And she comes inside and she begins to minister to us both.
Hmm.
And she just begins to tell us like, asks first what's going on, what's happening. We began to tell her, I began to tell her how I felt. I don't really remember, to be honest, everything that was said. But all I remember is that in that moment when she stepped in, she ministered so much hope into both of us. And she knocked some sense into both of
Yeah.
us.
Big time.
Like, cut it out, like you guys are a team, you guys are a marriage. Like, how are you guys going to work through this together? And I feel like that was the first time I even remember a couple nights after that, I was praying and then you came to sit next to me and we began to pray together and you began to like hug me, because I was not feeling well. So because of the C-section.
Struggling with postpartum.
Yeah, I was struggling with postpartum depression. And then you began to console me. And I felt like little by little, like we like did wake up. Like God used her to wake us up and be like, what are we doing? Like, we love each other so much, like we wanted this so bad to like, since we were 12 years old, we wanted to be together like we are now. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, bro.
And I think little by little, and I remember, through the divorce word, whatever, but after that, you were like, never again. Like, both of us were like, we're never going to allow that. Not even joke. Like, we made a vow, remember? Like, we said, not even joking, we're going to say the D word. Like, we're not even going to imply it. Like, nothing like that. Like, we threw it out.
Yeah.
And we've never even said that ever since.
Big time. So, guys, when we say, like, not to us, Lord, not to us, but to your name be the glory. Seriously, like, I mean, guys, statistically, we're not supposed to
be together.
We're not supposed to have this.
No.
None of this.
No.
We're not supposed to have any of this. Like, this was supposed to end right when it got started.
Yeah.
Like, statistically speaking. So the fact that we get to enjoy this life, the fact that, like, our life story is like being rewritten.
Yeah.
And the life story of our children is now being rewritten. Our children's children. This is why, like, to all glory to God.
Yeah.
I can't take any credit for any of this.
No.
Like, God showed up at the right moment.
Yeah.
And he used, like, our pastor, the pastora.
Yeah.
I didn't call her.
No.
You didn't call her. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't know. And there's been countless times where stuff like this has happened. It's like, just God shows up at the right moment.
Yeah.
And he gives us the right word. He encourages the right way, gives us the right direction so that we can choose to obey and good things happen.
And the way you steward it, I think, I always say this to people, okay, you pray for breakthrough, but then it's like, how do you sustain that, right? And I think that, after that moment where our pastor came to minister to us, like, I made a determination to believe God. And I remember after having Judah, I was like, I'm just, I didn't work. So I was like, I'm just going to give my life to the Lord and I'm going to go after him like never before. And I remember that that's when my life of prayer and like of faith really began with the Lord. I was telling someone this week, like, Pablo and I were not givers. We were people who didn't give,
Stingy.
We were well, honestly, I just didn't know how to give. I didn't know how to give. I didn't know what that looked like. So I just knew to serve, like in church, but I didn't know what it meant to give, and to serve and not just in a ministry, church type of way.
Or like in giving money or something, like, because that's not what not only to what you're referring to.
No, like,
because we think and this is something obviously we got to create a whole new podcast episode in. It's like what the importance of being a giver is, because it's not just like, yes, at church you give offering, you give tithe, you give all this stuff, but
which
it's not that,
and we're big believers in
exactly. But as a giver, like, if you're a giving business owner, your business is going to prosper. If you're a giving husband, your marriage is going to prosper. If you're a giving father, your children are going to prosper. You see? So it's the principle.
Yeah.
And so, but I love this episode, man, because I'll tell you what, love, like, this is when I remember where I was and where I am, I'm telling you. It's just, I could just give God the glory and say, God, not to me, but to your name be the glory because of your faithfulness, because of your love and your faithfulness.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like I said, Now, guys, man, now, like, you know,
We don't have it all
I mean,
perfect.
we're still on a journey.
We're still
Like, yeah, we're
I
on a
feel
journey.
like last year and this year, God shifted us to another level of our journey,
Yeah.
like phase two.
Yeah,
You
there's
know,
phase two.
like
Exactly.
part two. And in a couple of years,
Yeah.
we'll talk about this phase, you know?
Exactly.
But like, I just do know that in these last 12 years,
Mm-hmm.
God has been doing, like Ephesians says, a deep work in us.
Mm-hmm.
The Holy Spirit has been doing a deep work in us. And how do you get on the path of a really good life? Let Him do a deep work in you. Let Him in. You know, drop the walls. Don't be scared of the ugly coming out. I remember, you know, with our mentors or leaders or pastors who are like mom and dad, like, I remember having the most uncomfortable conversations with them, but it just led me to see like there was good stuff for me. Like it was, you know, the word in Isaiah says that He gives us His beauty for our ashes. So all of these years, the Lord has been doing that with us. Like
that.
He's been exposing, you know, mindsets. He's been exposing habits. He's been exposing wounds, so many things inside of us. And He's like, just give me that so I can give you my mindset. So I can give you my kingdom mindset, my, you know, the Christ mindset. And it's up to you. It's up to us, you know, if we want it or not. And I mean, so many people around us have the same access to some of our leaders or mentors, you know, and it's up to you. It's up to you to submit and to say, God, I'm not going to resist you. I'm going to come out and be clean. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be transparent. Like you need that mentor that you're just going to be like, this is it.
Yeah,
Like,
and-
this is who I am.
And you have to ask yourself, like, my way, okay, because look, our early part of our marriage, our early years in just living was a result of our decisions I mean, think about my parents, like, you know, of their decisions it was a result of me doing things how I wanted to do them, how I do them. Exactly. So if the deal is this, because it's a deal, right? Like, it's like God, like a businessman comes and he says, I got a deal for you. Okay. And this is what the deal is. Okay. You see, like you're used to living your life this way and this is what it's producing. I mean, look at your life. Like
Right.
there's a lot of things that could be better. Wouldn't you agree? And you're like, yes, I'm crying in this, playground half naked because, like, because things are going horrible. So then he says, all right, well, then I want you to give that to me. And so that's when we accept Jesus in our hearts. And if you haven't done that, I mean, you should definitely do that. That's like the beginning of
Really good life.
the really good life. We wouldn't have a really good life without that. I'm not ashamed to say that.
Yeah.
Like, this is the beginning of the really good life. It's Jesus.
It's the way.
Yeah. So
The truth and the life.
okay. So, and I'm not talking about, just go to church. No way. Like, absolutely not. Because we went to church our whole life
We didn't have a really good life.
and we didn't have a really good life.
Not even a good life.
Okay. So, not even a good life. Now we have a really good life. So in the future, it's a really, really good life. Anyways, it gets better. So that's what I'm saying. So here comes this business owner and he says, hey, this is what I have for you, but you have to give up what you currently have, because what you currently have is producing that. And I think what happens, and I've said this, it's like what happens is that's the hard part because we're used to control.
Yeah.
Okay, well, at least my life is crappy, but I have control and I know what to expect. All right. So, but the deal is give that up. The verse you just quoted. So you accept Jesus in your heart, and that's not this, guys, it's as simple as, if you're watching this, it's as simple as, Jesus, I accept you into my heart and I want to start living this journey with you. Okay. Simple prayer.
I confess
Okay.
you as my Lord and
Yeah.
Savior.
You can get fancy with, all the other stuff, but listen to the heart of what it means. It means, Jesus, I'm tired of doing things my way. I want to do it your way. Okay. Because we accept him as our Savior and as our Lord. Okay. Lord is, all right, I was making these decisions before, but now, as I read the Bible, as I read the Word, right? As you begin to teach me things and ask me to give certain things up, I'm going to start doing that because I want to live the really good life.
Yeah.
So this is the amazing thing. He created every single one of us. God created every single one of us, and every single one of us is super unique. So what my example of the really good life is going to be different for someone else.
Oh, yeah.
There are going to be some similarities, but nonetheless, it's going to be a really good life. So what I'm saying, and I think this is what we can conclude it, because we're going to talk about, the different specifics on what changed, what specific things changed. Like we talked about giving, we talked about like even
How
business,
we are as husband and
how we are
wife.
as husband and wife, balancing, time with our children, time with our business, time with everything. Right? We talked about the different things, and we'll talk about that in future episodes. But just know that in the beginning, like it's the beginning of a really good life is Jesus.
And I know, we talked about like how did you begin, this entrepreneurship journey? This is how it began, guys. Like it wasn't anything fancy. It wasn't anything like, and then we hit, the lottery. Like it wasn't easy. But this is supposed to like bring hope to you or to whoever is wanting to even start an entrepreneurship while having a family,
Exactly.
like yes, it's not easy, but if you hang on, and I keep saying this because I love how, where we heard it from Janet and Joshua, like if God said it, then he will do it. And I think that was the part where Pablo, hang on to. And then when I was able to grab, onto the vision, because like I was saying earlier, I began my journey of faith and of prayer and of devotion to the Lord. And because I was going deeper with the Lord, I remember the Lord speaking to me and saying, this business, I've given it to you. I've given it to you and Pablo. And I remember that same year, we had a friend who used to come to our church, and one of our brothers found him at a restaurant or something, and then he was like, "Oh, how's Pablo doing?" And then, your brother was like, "He's doing fine. Like he's actually now he has a business." And, "Oh yeah, what is it about?" And he's like, "Oh, video." And then he was like, "Oh yeah, I remember there was somebody who like gave him even a word of promise one time, a prophetic word at church, and they saw him like with something with video and photos." And then I was like, I'm like, that would have been nice, Pablo, if you would have said something to me
I
about
forgot.
that. But
Yeah, I
Pablo
forgot.
forgot. But what I'm trying to say is it is so good that you even pray, into your business and say, God, if you put this in my heart, it's going to stand a lot of tests. We Home Sweet Home Productions, our first business, has gone through a lot of testing. And the first test was that.
Well, yeah, first test in a lot of cases does. So, okay, we'll talk about this in another episode, but I think we should I think we should bring this to a close here, and just say again, this has what we're going to title this episode is it hasn't always been a really good life, So
Yes, it wasn't.
yeah, because it wasn't. You got to hear our story, but yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
watching,
And
and
just remember that you're not alone, and God will put the right people in your life. And maybe there are already people in your life, and just ask the Holy Spirit to highlight those people. And you might have to go and knock on some doors, and I know we shared our part where someone
Yeah,
showed
reach out.
up
Yeah.
to our house. That was very supernatural. But that doesn't take away that God can use you also reaching out to people.
Yeah.
So you can,
You can also reach out to us.
yeah, definitely. We're here to pray for you guys. And, every time we do an episode, we pray, to the Lord, and we say, Lord, help us choose the right, conversations that that are going to go out to help other people. We don't just want to do this in vain, you know, like we want to do this to truly bring glory to him, but also to help you guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we bless you guys. We thank you for tuning in, and we hope you tune in into the next one.